What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, September 22nd, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 15:42 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Eastern Europe and from here in the US. But before I get into the breaking news, I wanted to just remind you guys that I'm posting more to my X account, and you can follow me over there by going to at NYPrepper1. That's my Twitter or X handle. So at NYPrepper1, the at symbol, like if you're writing an email, and then NYPrepper1. The link to my X is in the description below this video. I'm trying to build that up as a backup to YouTube in case something were to happen to YouTube. Also, follow me on Patreon. You can get access to all of these updates with no advertisements, and I also post text summaries over there as well. So we have some major breaking news coming in from here in the U.S. Looks like the U.S. tested a Trident missile last night, and looks like it was launched from somewhere off the coast of Florida near the Bahamas, and it went all the way to close to Africa. As you can see here, the approximate trajectory. Okay, and there was some video footage out of Puerto Rico last night. This was completely unscheduled. So clearly the U.S. is trying to send a message to Venezuela and probably also Russia and China during the UN General Assembly. Okay, this was a Trident missile, which is a submarine-launched ballistic missile. It's one of the most important missiles in the United States military, actually probably the most important, because most of our nuclear weapons are deployed from submarines. About 65% of our nuclear arsenal is dedicated to our Ohio-class subs. So this is actually more important than the Minuteman missiles that they launched from Vandenberg, because those Minuteman missiles actually only make up like 20% of our nuclear arsenal. Okay, so this is extremely serious, clearly a message to not just Venezuela but Russia and China ahead of the UN General Assembly. And this morning, Putin made some interesting statements shortly after this test. He said that Russia will comply with the New START treaty if the United States takes similar steps. He also said Russia is ready to respond to any possible threats with military force. He also said, as a result of the destructive actions of the West, the foundations for dialogue between nuclear-armed states have been significantly undermined. And the White House said today that Trump was made aware of Putin's offer on the New START treaty limitations. I don't think Trump is going to agree to it, especially after the mockery that Putin made of Trump the last couple of weeks after Trump invited him to Alaska, and then days after, Russian bombers flew to Alaska and Putin launched massive attacks on Ukraine, not to mention the drones flying into Poland and then fighter jets into Estonia. And Trump warned on Sunday that the U.S. would defend Poland and the Baltic countries if Russia's aggression escalates after a series of incursions into the airspace of the NATO allies. Trump asked by reporters on the White House lawn whether America will defend Poland and the Baltics if Russia keeps accelerating. He responded by saying, "Yeah, I would." Trump, speaking moments before flying to the Arizona funeral of assassinated conservative icon Charlie Kirk, also confirmed that he had been briefed on the most recent tense situation, which involved Estonia, saying, "Yeah, we don't like it." Wow. And the Polish Prime Minister said Monday that Poland will defend its airspace if any aircraft threaten its territory, according to state-run news channel TVP Info. we will make the decision to shoot down flying objects without hesitation when they threaten our territory and are flying over Poland. There's nothing to debate in such cases. He added that in situations that are not entirely clear, such as when incidents occur outside Polish territory, Poland will take a measured approach. When we're dealing with less clear-cut situations like the recent flight of Russian fighter jets over the Petro-Baltic platform in the Baltic Sea, which didn't involve a violation of Polish airspace because it's not within our territorial waters, we have to think twice before taking actions that could escalate the conflict significantly, Tusk told reporters. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to use my link. It's in the description below this video. It's preparewithNYPrepper.com. So they're selling their 3-month emergency food kit at 30% off. Plus, they're going to throw in an additional month of food. So that's 4 months of food. And the normal price would be $944. And they're selling it at just under $700 for 4 months of food. And this food has a 25-year shelf life. And it's all packed into rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space in your home. And the food is obviously nutritious, which is very important for surviving any kind of SHTF situation. You can also use this food for camping and traveling. But use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get a free month of emergency food with your 3-month emergency food kit from NYPrepper Supply, all at 30% off, just $700 for 4 months of food. So use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video. So if you guys are not aware, on the same day that the Russians flew fighter jets into Estonia, they also flew fighter jets near a Polish oil drilling platform in the Baltic Sea, and that's what he's referring to. The Prime Minister emphasized that Poland is in constant contact with its allies and is prepared to take whatever action is necessary to destroy any objects that may pose a threat to us. He added, but I need to be 100% sure that our allies will approach this the same way we do, that in a situation where the conflict escalates into a very sharp phase, we won't be alone in it, okay? So he makes a good point there. You know, he doesn't want to be the guy that's shooting down Russian missiles over Ukraine, and then Russia's going to bomb Poland as a result, and France and the UK and Germany are just going to sit back and do nothing. Okay, but we are hearing some reports that Poland, Romania, and Ukraine have reportedly started coordinating on how they can shoot down Russian drones and missiles over western Ukraine. So that is huge, okay? And Russia said if they did that, that would be considered an act of war. And we're also hearing that the French Foreign Legion, those are basically French Navy SEALs or like French Green Berets. They're the most elite fighters in the French military, have arrived in Poland. Also, the 8th Special Operations Squadron of the U.S. Air Force arrived in Finland. And we're hearing that NATO fighter jets have evacuated out of Estonia and have been relocated to Poland. We're also hearing that Poland is mapping out in detail possible invasion routes from Russia into Poland, and all of this was reported to me by KLW World News, aka Lee Wheelbarger. Check him out. He's mostly on Rumble these days. And the U.S. ambassador to the UN said today that the U.S. and its allies will defend every inch of NATO territory. And Poland started military exercises with Sweden for the first time ever. And a German bunker company called BSSD has recorded a 50% increase in demand for private bunkers in Germany since the beginning of 2025, and they have noted a further increase since the Russian drone incursion into Poland. Okay, so demand for private bunkers in Germany is now skyrocketing. And we do have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert today. What's interesting is we had a U.S. nuke sniffer plane fly to Whiteman Air Force Base, and it was looping over Whiteman. That is the home of our B-2 stealth bombers, and a nuke sniffer plane is used to detect radiation in the atmosphere. We also had a Cobra Ball fly up to North Dakota, which is a missile detecting and tracking plane. We also have a B-52 nuclear bomber over Oklahoma, and then we have several aerial refuelers and a sub-hunter off the coast of Maine and Nova Scotia. And last night we had a nuclear war command and control plane flying with its tracker turned off over the Pacific Northwest, which is very unusual. And we also had a C-5 Galaxy, which is the heaviest cargo plane in the U.S. military, leave Delaware and head to Europe. And I also want to remind you guys that we moved a nuclear war command and control plane to Ramstein, okay, which is extremely unusual. To have a nuclear war command and control plane in Europe is very, very unusual, especially in Ramstein. Ramstein is the largest U.S. military base outside of the U.S., okay? Also, we had 2 Norwegian sub-hunters fly towards Russia's Northern Fleet base. This is where Russia has 2/3 of their nuclear-armed submarines, so probably Norway and NATO are trying to get a bead on how many Russian nuclear-armed subs are in port, which would determine what readiness posture Russia is at as far as their nuclear forces go. Also, we had a U.S. recon plane fly into northern Poland and through the Baltics last night. And we're also hearing that Russia shot down 114 Ukrainian drones overnight last night. The Russian ambassador in Brussels claims that emergency communication channels with NATO are still open. And the Belarus Defense Minister, Viktor Krenin, appealed to Poland, saying Belarus does not want to wage war with its neighbor. Interesting. And the White House said that Trump will be giving a major speech tomorrow morning, supposedly about autism. And Trump made some comments about Venezuela today. He said that the Venezuelan militia training is a very serious threat. So if you guys are not aware, Venezuela has called up its militia, several million of them. Okay, that's like a National Guard. And we're also hearing that another U.S. warship arrived in the Caribbean. The USS Stockdale arrived at the Balboa Naval Base in Panama City in Panama. Okay, so this is the 4th guided missile destroyer to arrive in the Caribbean. Absolutely insane. And in Venezuela, large-scale military exercises continue in response to Trump's threats involving all branches of Venezuela's armed forces, including ground, naval, and air forces, along with the mobilization and training of reserve forces in preparation for a possible war with the U.S. And the leader of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, sent a letter to Trump 2 weeks ago calling on Trump to engage in direct dialogue and resolve issues through dialogue rather than war, and he rejected accusations of Venezuela collaborating with drug cartels. He said that basically 90% of the drugs do not go through Venezuela, but they actually go out through Colombia, okay, and not through Venezuela. So that's what he's claiming, that basically only like 10% of South American drugs are trafficked through Venezuela, supposedly. And also, Russia has been building up their strategic reserves, according to the Institute for the Study of War, citing a Russian insider source. Russia has now built up 292,000 reserves for their strategic reserve force. Okay, so this could potentially be an army that is preparing to invade Europe and conduct another offensive in Ukraine. Why else would you need 300,000 reserves all of a sudden? Okay, that is a huge amount. So it sounds like Russia's preparing to invade Poland and the Baltics. And speaking of Poland, there were numerous power outages reported across Poland yesterday due to some issues with power plants across Poland. Here we have a website that tracks all the outages at various power plants across Poland, and you can see these red squares represent unscheduled power outages at some of these facilities here. Okay, I'm going to dive deeper into this today and update you guys on that, but I will be going live tonight closer to midnight Eastern time, probably around 11 p.m. Eastern or so, maybe a little sooner or a little later, okay? But I will send out notifications when I go live to provide live coverage. And here we have some satellite footage of that additional U.S. guided missile destroyer arriving at the Balboa Naval Base in Panama. This was taken on September the 20th, on Saturday. Okay, this is the USS Stockdale, and look at all of the forces in the Caribbean, guys. We got dozens of fighter jets and warplanes. We have probably about a dozen naval assets, including submarines. We have 10 F-35s in Puerto Rico. This is a massive deployment, guys. Okay, this is like something we would see in the Middle East, like right before Israel and Iran were about to launch missiles at each other last year in 2024. Okay, this is a huge deployment. And the Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said that the Israeli military will not leave Mount Hermon. If you guys are not aware, Mount Hermon is actually in Syria, and the Syrian president arrived in New York at the UN General Assembly, the first time a Syrian president ever arrived at the General Assembly, and he was saying he wants Israel to leave Syrian territory. And we're now hearing that Israel is considering partial or full annexation of the West Bank following Britain's recognition of a Palestinian state. Guys, this is biblical. All these countries now are moving to recognize the Palestinian state, okay? Britain, and then soon France. Portugal already did it. I mean, these are major countries, guys. Great Britain, okay? A major military and economic power. And we're hearing that 35,000 Hasidic Jews have arrived in the Cherkasy region of Ukraine for the celebration of Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so 35,000 Jews now in this frontline city in eastern Ukraine in Cherkasy. It'll be interesting to see if Russia bombs this city during Rosh Hashanah, okay? And Kim Jong-un made some statements over the weekend about North Korea's nuclear arsenal. He said North Korea will never give up their nuclear weapons. He said he has no intention of unifying with South Korea and that he will never sit at the negotiating table with South Korea. So he sees what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, with Trump trying to force Ukraine and Russia into ceasefire talks, and he's basically saying that he's not going to give in to that. So basically making it clear to Trump he's not interested. And here we have a copy of the letter that Maduro sent to Trump. And here we have a picture of Trump and Elon Musk sitting together at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back later on tonight with more breaking news. Follow me on Telegram and Twitter. That's at NYPrepper1 on Twitter. Also check out my Patreon. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.